Hey there, Hill folk, and welcome back to another episode of Appalachian Intelligence. We're extremely thankful that you guys can join us again for another week, for another episode. With you, per the usual, your hosts, Justin, Ryan, and Lance. How you boys doing tonight? Sorry, Lance just popped back up on screen and kind of messed with me right then. How you boys doing tonight?
Lance is doing great. He loves y'all, but he has no voice. Oh, never mind. He still loves you, but he's gone.
He does love you, but he doesn't have a voice. After he was making fun of me on last week's episode and my quote ginger immune system, now he's sick. He don't have a voice.
Well,
So
in his defense, it mixed with ginger blood and transformed into something horrible. And then your sputal, as you
yeah,
were coughing in the vehicle, goes over on Lance, and now he's got that damn super bug.
hey, that's what I do. I'm a super
Yeah,
spreader, son. I spread it all. Love, viruses, it doesn't matter. I
yeah.
spread it all. Anyway, back to the show. So, you guys know when we get 5-star reviews, when we get love, we love to show a little love and share it. Our latest 5-star review comes from Kentucky Dozer Guy. It's 5 stars. It says a truly great show. Hey, Hill folk, found you guys after listening to the Hollow Sky podcast, and I've been slowly making my way through your catalog and enjoying it very much. So glad to find a show from this area not playing to the stereotypical hill folk of it sounded like a freight when it hit the trailer. Anyways, keep up the great work and I'll keep listening. So, Kentucky Dozer Guy, thank you for listening. Thank you for the love and the 5-star review. We really appreciate it. And just keep sharing the show, man. Keep sharing the show. We appreciate all y'all out there. But fortunately, especially since Lance dipped out on us tonight, you don't have to just listen to me and Ryan because I know that gets a little trying for you guys.
Yeah.
We have a couple really awesome special guests for you Hill folk tonight. These guys are the scientists of the supernatural, undertakers of the incomprehensible, lecturers leaving lessons for inquiring laymen. They are applying the scientific method to a world that baffles science. They are the Cryptids of the Corn. Justin and Jay from Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Boys, how y'all doing tonight?
Living the dream.
Fantastic. Glad to be
Good.
here.
Really happy to be here. I don't know if I can live up to that intro, but
Yeah,
geez.
quite high praise.
Hey, look, I just call it like I see it, boys. I call it like I see it.
Justin's
appreciate you guys
Justin's
having
really
us.
good at those. He's I compliment him all the time.
Look, everybody's got to be good at something. And I'm not good at anything else except introductions. So,
Hey, it's good. I liked it. It worked.
What are you good at, Jay?
Shoot, bowling.
There you go.
hey, that's something. That's
Yeah.
something.
I'll take it.
He just got done bowling. I just got done playing euchre.
Yes.
Sweet.
That's what I'm talking about.
The
Everybody's
Midwest.
gotta-
That's what you do.
Everybody's got to have hobbies. No, guys, it's really, really great to have you guys on here tonight. You know, we're really excited about this episode and have been excited for weeks now, you know, when we decided on a date. And, like I said earlier, huge fan of your guys' show. You know, me and Ryan will listen to certain episodes and chop it up about it, and kind of just talk about different parts of it and how you guys really blow our minds in a whole lot of areas. Like, man, I've never thought of it like that, or I didn't know this. But it's a great show. So all you Hill folk out there, before we even get started and I even allow them the opportunity to introduce themselves and promote their podcast, go look up Cryptids of the Corn right now, leave a 5-star review and rating, and then go listen, because I'm telling you, as soon as you do, you're going to be grateful that you left that 5-star. But Justin, Jay, before we dive into all the ooey gooey goodness of what we got planned for tonight, why don't y'all let the Hill folk know a little bit about yourselves, how the show got started, and a little bit about what you guys do?
Well, I'll introduce myself real quick because Jay has got this feel for how we all got started and all of that. Jay loves doing that. So I was a fisheries technician, which is in layman's term like a fishery biologist. It's just the easiest way to explain it. So I was a field biologist. I did endangered species surveys, eDNA. I was looking for things that was said not to exist, and we found them. So that's what I did for a living. I don't do that anymore. I tore my knee out last year. So I just physically can't do it anymore. That's partially why this got rolling, because I actually had time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I got a lot of hair. I raised fancy poultry. And I have a bunch of salamanders.
Very true. And then I've been a bartender and worked at a bowling alley for the longest time. And Justin's one of our faithful Tuesday night patrons that always frequents the place.
I've supported that place, I feel.
Yeah, right. And we come from a pretty small town, so you got a lot of frequent guests that come in and out. But it's just one night I was bartending, Justin stops up and asks me if I believed in Bigfoot.
Aggressively.
Yeah,
I was drinking.
Pretty aggressively. And I might have had a few drinks that night too. So of course I said yes, because I do. And being that job, I have a lot of free time, or you go home with your mind still racing, from the conversation of the day. But I always had a lot of interest in this field. So of course I said yes, because I do believe in Bigfoot. And then that's kind of set it off. And he's like, you know what, we should start a podcast. Let's talk about it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Why not? I don't care. Never done that before.
Oh gosh.
So we started it, and then he kind of blows my mind with the stuff that he comes up with, because I have not come from that fishery biologist background, biology at all. I liked it in high school, but that's about as far as it goes for me. So he kind of inquired. I inquired a lot of questions with the things he brought to the table, and then bounced back and forth like that, and then here we are today.
Oh, nice. I love it.
So, and we like to say the podcast is where scientific and magical thinking combine.
Because I'm pretty free thinking myself. I believe in just about every possibility, because I don't believe anything. I don't believe we actually know anything when it comes down to the end of the day.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing that.
And and he does know a lot of things, which you'll soon find out. And sure, and a lot of that really applies to things that are explained today, and he can explain it in a different way with using actual evidence and things like that. And that's just not really talked about too often. And then I'll just come from a whole other angle at it. It's maybe as far-fetched as my brain can think of, because it might be true. Who knows?
Indeed. All right, we've been recording all day, so it's just like I'm sick of Jay at this point.
Well, me and Ryan work together, so I've also been with him all day, not in the same context as you boys, but I've literally stood on the other side of a planer looking at that face all day long. So by the time we get to recording nights, it's like, God, what are we even going to talk about?
Right.
We've already done it.
We've talked about it all day.
Yeah.
We used to just sit up there and drink and talk about this stuff until we put a microphone in front of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then we stopped drinking while we did it because it got bad.
Yeah, we tried that one episode. It just didn't end well. We're like, hey, let's get drunk today and then record after it.
Well, we had a 10-hour cornhole tournament before we tried to record, and we drank the whole time. Nice. I don't even know how we hit the button.
Sweet.
Not one of our favorite episodes.
Oh gosh, yeah, we had to pour ourselves into the studio and everything. It was bad.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to let me know which episode that is, because I need to go listen to
episode.
it.
Yeah, it's
nice.
the
Hodag.
The experience was not as fun as the thought.
We came right in this is so big. This about to pass out. Like, let's just get this done. We got to do at least 45 minutes.
Oh,
trying to read the paper.
That's awesome. But no, I do. I love the dynamic that you two have. It reminds in a different way, but it reminds me a lot of the dynamic that we have here on this show. And it's not by any means because of the background that you have in the sciences, but it's just the differences of personality and thinking. Mm-hmm. I believe it all. Just give it to me. I believe it all. I'm going to take it hook, line, and sinker. And even if I don't believe it, I'm going to talk myself into believing it. Like, this is the way I am. Ryan, well, Ryan, you can tell them how you are.
Yeah, no, I need some proof there. And I need you to show me some scientific evidence that doesn't contradict it in any way whatsoever.
Well, good luck with that.
And then,
yeah.
And then Lance.
That's what I'm saying.
Lance is he's a happy medium. He's not too far off the deep end, in Justin's crazy corner, but he's also not a Ryan. He can go a little farther out there and has a little more belief. And not saying that Ryan doesn't believe in certain things, but like he said, just takes a lot more evidence for him than it does me. I'm just ready to jump on it. So I love that dynamic, and I think that's what I think that's why I enjoyed y'all show so much just right off the jump, is because I heard that dynamic and I was like, oh man, this is great. This is great. And not also what I love about it, and I don't mean this in any derogatory way at all, because I'm a super nerd in a lot of areas. But y'all are super nerds, and I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we're pretty
absolutely
nerdy.
Yes, definitely.
I said there's one thing we definitely both agree on, is that, like, the truth doesn't mind being questioned, and a lie does not like to be challenged.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We both definitely agree on that. We just approach it from very different angles.
And I'll throw a pen every once in a while.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, boys. Well, let's dive into it, because
you asked us on here for a very specific topic.
Absolutely.
And it's organic UFOs. So you really love the one type, and that's kind of the type we talked about on Tony's show. But there are several types. Some information. So I was going to give you some background information before we get into the actual living creatures. And I'd like to say that this only represents about 5% of UFO sightings. Because I think that's maybe some of the stuff that people misunderstood, is I was saying this is all UFOs. It's not. This is a very small section of UFOs that fit into these boxes. But layers of the atmosphere. So we live in the troposphere. That's the little bubble we're in. And that goes to about 10 miles up. And this is the layer that holds the most heat, just due to being below the ozone layer and stuff like that. The next layer up is the stratosphere, and that is 11 miles to 31 miles. And then after that is the mesosphere, which is 32 miles to 85 miles. So there's more layers to that, but we don't really look into them, just due to the layers of the atmosphere start separating, as in the gases themselves stop being mixed, and they start laying on top of each other. So it's very hard for a creature, to any kind of organics, to live there, just due to that. It's not an environment that's suitable to normal life in this system. The specific layer we like to talk about. So most people say the human eye can only see about 10 miles unabated normally.
Right.
And a lot of these creatures are translucent or reflective. So you probably can't, we have somebody coming on Friday, and we have somebody coming on
Monday, I believe.
Yeah. About organic UFOs, witnesses. And the one person was like a half mile away having trouble seeing it. It was just like she thought it was phasing in and out. And I told her it more looked like it was a translucent creature. And as it turns, you're just catching the edges of it. Like you've all seen jellyfish and stuff like that. At some angles, you can really see them. At other angles, they look like water.
Yeah.
So the stratosphere and the mesosphere have a really unique relationship. As you go up in the stratosphere, it gets warmer again. So after you break, so the ozone layer is basically at the bottom of the stratosphere, right above the trope where we live. As you go up, it gets warmer. And once you hit the mesosphere, as you go up, it gets colder. So right where those two meet, there's a bunch of liquid water or vapor water, and it's really nice and warm. Well, not really, it's 40 degrees, but we have stuff that lives under the Antarctic ice sheets and stuff like that, big animals. So it's warm enough for big life.
Right.
So that's the layer we look at that most of these life forms are probably living in the majority of their time. It's the 25 miles to 45 miles up. And I know I've just said a whole lot of stuff with no proof, and I have no proof of this. It's just I think they're starting to look. So NASA did. I know everybody in here probably has opinions on NASA.
Absolutely.
I definitely do.
Never a straight answer, not a space
Yeah,
agency.
I like never a straight answer. Jay likes not the space agency.
Not a space agency.
I can't speak.
I like just another form of the variation of the word Nazi. That's my favorite.
I mean, that's how they were founded.
Right.
Exactly.
I think people forget that.
Yep.
When are they going to start denouncing NASA? Probably never.
Didn't they turn it
Probably
into books?
Probably when Elon decides to shut down SpaceX, because they are mad at Elon right now. So
So NASA did studies in 13, 15, and just recently 19. And they use these, and it's going to be kind of hard to explain because I showed Jay a picture of them and I couldn't explain it. But when my line of work, we had guys that did bug and bacteria research. And they built these things called heterodendes.
In river systems.
In river systems, water. And they're basically, we call them bug hotels. It means for bacteria and other microbes too. You build an environment that's perfect for them and has food. So you put these in the system, and any species that's there clings onto these. So it's a good way when we go back to the lab to look at what species are present in these areas. Good luck spelling heterodendy. I can't spell it for you. So we put a similar thing in the upper atmosphere with giant balloons. And they collected, when we did these studies, we were only expecting to find half a dozen species. And we actually found somewhere around 4,000 species of creature. And
every clade of invertebrate life.
Every major clade of invertebrate life was found up there.
Wow.
So that means clade's a little bit before family. So it's still very open. It's not like, there's not earthworms up there, stuff like that. But including some members that are related to jellyfish. So there are jellyfish like creatures up there right now we know about. Here's the problem with these studies is they never went above the ozone layer. Because it's before this, 2000, I think 13 or 15 was the first study. And then we didn't think anything was up there, living. And if it was because it got blown up there and it died very shortly after. So we just now started looking at it as, okay, there's a lot of life up here. But we still have that bias that it's not above the ozone layer. So it's still biased. And the reason that we don't think it's above the ozone layer is the radiation. But the levels of radiation up there, we have creatures right now that survive it like nothing else. So it's not super high level. It's within life's factors. We have creatures on this surface of this planet right now. Tardigrades are a famous one. Water bears, I'm sure you guys heard of them.
Yes.
And there's like 6,000 or 7,000 species for them. So not every species of tardigrade can survive in space. Not every species of tardigrade can survive radiation. But there are members of that group that can survive intense solar radiation, the vacuum of space for 10, 20 years. So we have creatures that are built to survive this. The other way you can do it is be like a jellyfish. And basically every cell in your body is a stem cell. And you just keep healing. We talked about the immortal jellyfish. You guys ever heard about this species?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, as you can tell, I like to talk.
Nerd alert.
Hey, look, I love it.
Yeah, so it makes this job easy, man.
Yeah.
Jellyfish have a crazy reproductive system. But there are male-female jellyfish where they have both parts, and they release sperm and egg, and they form a zygote, kind of like us so far, except the zygote turns into a little fish-like structure. This little fish-like structure swims to the bottom of the ocean, bites onto a rock, and then melts down to jelly, and then forms what looks like a flower, like a long stem with a flower on the end. Inside that flower, another flower forms, and another flower forms, and another flower forms on top of each other. When it's done, that bottom flower becomes a jellyfish. And then this one comes a jellyfish, and this one becomes a jellyfish. So it's super weird. The immortal jellyfish can do that. They can produce offspring like every other jellyfish. But let's say they are super damaged beyond repair. What they will do is melt their whole self down and become a zygote and restart the whole process themselves. So they're, in essence, immortal.
Wow. So it's like jellyfish reincarnation.
Kind of,
Only
but it's
they're
genetically
reincarnating
the same creature.
Yeah, themselves. Wow.
It's like you hitting old age and then hitting a button and becoming an infant again. And we don't know how long they can do this. So, and there's arguments about this. Everything in the biological field has arguments and stuff because it's hard. You can't prove it because there's no genetic markers to prove how old it is. But I seen one estimate. They think one in an aquarium is 40,000 years old.
Holy crap.
Heavily debated. I'll say it. It's heavily debated, but we know it's almost impossible to tell because they don't die like we do. They can be eaten. Don't get me wrong. They can definitely be eaten by something and that ends that cycle. But if you're just in a square tube with food and water, they could go on forever whenever they hit old age or they get tore up. That's the other thing. They'll be missing half their body. Like, all right, well, I can't heal this. Just melt down and restart. So those type of creatures have been found. Well, the family members in that clade have been found up there. So now we have these creatures. So I guess what I was saying with that is these creatures can reproduce their cells so fast that they can kind of get rid of or get over that radiation factor. They don't get cancer like us, It's a very different system. And I think that's where a lot of people are having trouble understanding is they're trying to put our limitations onto nature and it just doesn't work.
Right.
Mother Nature has filled every spot of available space on this planet. And for you to tell me that it's not taking advantage of the biggest environment, I won't believe it.
Yeah.
That is the biggest, most open environment that we cannot see and we cannot study very easily. You think the bottom of the ocean's hard. Now just try to sit at, 40 miles up and try to collect jelly samples. It's not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
But yes, I told you temperature, stuff like that. We talk about it. The upper atmosphere is really, really similar to the open ocean. Both the pressure extremes, the lack of hard surfaces. So any creature that develops any size up there would get so a couple options, you get very big. Open ocean gigantism, you get big because it's easier to travel long distance. It's easier to store vast quantities of food, especially if food's not available very often. So like whales, think of whales, is that when they will travel, that's why they get so big is they can travel long distances to get to areas without a lot of available food. And then they can take full advantage of that resource. They just eat and eat and eat. And it's just so easier to travel. So that's the one thing. The other thing is you get invisible because a lot of open ocean fish, especially larval fish, are almost 100% transparent. So you get what we're going to talk about here later. I'm setting up stuff so you see some similarities.
Yeah, I love it.
You get very transparent, just so predators and prey can't see you because there's nothing to hide. You get really, really good at camouflage, like sargasso fish. Look just like piles of weeds. In the frogfish family, they got little legs and stuff like that. Or you get incredibly fast. So think of both flying fish and marlin. Flying fish would be the prey. They also can fly out of the water, but they can swim up to 50 miles per hour. And the marlin, get up to the 70s. So you get very fast because you don't have the option to hide. So the only way you win is you get away from these creatures by going really fast.
Yeah.
Because really fast.
Right.
I say that because it'll come up later. But there's many types of these creatures. You want me to get into them now, or you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I know.
Absolutely.
I talk a lot. Just yell at me when you need to stop.
No, this is great. I feel like I am sitting front row in a college classroom listening to the best professor on campus. Okay.
Mr. E.
I've been blushing all this whole time.
Mr. E.
So the first category we're going to talk about is one that's near and dear to our hearts personally, is the manta ray stick-shaped. So these are giant gelatinous creatures. They're almost 100% transparent with a blue or like kind of silvery tinge. You can see through them distortedly. This is the first organic UFO we ever talked about. And we immediately got like stories of people saying, hey, I heard your show. I had this encounter. I've never heard anything like it until you guys did this episode. And here's my story. And we got more, and then we got more, and then we got more. These things are fairly common as far as we go with UFO encounters and stuff. They're seen often.
It's definitely probably one of the most common ones that we've studied or talked about or
the larger
researched.
They can be from the size of a biplane to the size of a Boeing. That's kind of where they're reported in, is their range. Almost everybody that's seen them has reported a sense of awe, as in not fear. Some of these people are very close to these creatures, but it's like seeing a whale. You're not scared, but you're just like, that is so big and immense. It's just, and they're not threatening or anything like that. They are seen flapping. So manta ray shaped, but not manta ray like. It's kind of hard to explain until you see a picture or a drawing of one. But they flap their wings. As they flap, they don't move the air around them, it seems. The one story we got, the trees were below it, and as it was flapping really slow and gently, it wasn't rustling the trees. So to them, it's probably a gas-filled creature that's using that flapping to steer, not to produce lift.
We've also talked about maybe it being riding like an electromagnetic current, too.
Yeah, something like that. It's basically static. The Earth has an electromagnetic shell, and there may be some sort of biological system to kind of latch onto that and climb the layers. So that's why it moves so slow. And they get big. So think of them as whales, because we're going to talk about some predators later. And they move a lot faster. But these guys are big and slow.
Basically like big filter feeders.
Yeah, so why don't you tell the story?
So like the probably the most famous account, or well documented, is the Ohio River manta ray. And I was seen first one night, I was a couple, I believe. They seen it flying doing figure eights.
2003.
2003, yes. Doing figure eights over the Ohio River. And what Justin has speculated is the figure eight is a filter feeding pattern. It's the most efficient way to filter feed. So it was possibly just eating what was ever above the river at that moment. And they seen it doing these patterns, and then it slowly drifted back up into the sky, and they didn't see it anymore. And then was it just like a week later?
No, it was the next night.
The next night, okay. The next night, not too far from that same area, it was a group of people witnessed pretty much the same exact thing. And neither had reported their story to like authorities, or any newspaper or anything like that until after both had been seen. Then both accounts had been reported on, and they basically reported the same thing without knowing each other's account. So kind of almost confirms what they were seeing. They were seeing the same type of thing without the bias of knowing, hearing the other person's story first.
If I can say something about the filter feeding motion. So what he means by the figure eight or this pattern, you guys ever seen videos of manta rays actually feeding? So they do this twist. Yep. And why they do that twist is to pull, it's a suction or like a vacuum motion to pull food back into the spot they're about to come back to. So it's resetting the next pattern. Whales do this, sharks do this, manta rays do it. It's this pattern to set up the most efficient way to feed. These creatures, specifically those open ocean creatures, they survive off of being efficient, even though they're huge. They need to move as little as possible with getting the most amount of food. So every little twitch there's a reason behind it. If you look at basking sharks, another filter feeding shark, they do tail to tail to tail to tail because that's an efficient motion. It creates these swirls around the back end of them and puts more food in the one behind its mouth. So these movements are very direct. It's not just willy-nilly flapping. And that was what was important with the story to me. When we first did it, I was like, that's 100% a feeding motion. So that's something that somebody in 2003 on the side of the Ohio River wouldn't know to include in their story. That's what gives it more credit to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Do the manta ray and the amoeba forms?
We'll get to them.
Okay.
They're a little different, but they're probably cousins.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the manta rays. They've been seen fairly often. There are hundreds of stories of these things,
and they're seen almost everywhere, like every layer.
Yeah. The whole planet. They tend to favor mountain ranges. They tend to be seen around storm systems. So there's two reasons for this. Upper atmosphere, we actually have measured the nitrate or the nutrient load from the surface level being pushed up into the upper atmosphere. This is almost always around mountain ranges and storm systems. So if you're a big filter feeder, these are the areas you're hanging out to get the most access to food the easiest way. So we put this is the very biological sense behind their behaviors. So like we do have reports of them like out in Kansas and stuff like that, but not very often. They really are seen on both coasts because there's mountain ranges on both coasts. South America, all along the mountain ranges in Chile and stuff like that. Africa, Australia. So they're almost always around these mountain ranges or seen around storm systems. So yes, these are one of my favorite types for sure. They're very graceful. I love whales, so I love the whales, the upper atmosphere too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ready for the next type? Or you got any questions about manta rays?
No, absolutely. I was just thinking, I've actually heard a couple stories, a couple accounts of people seeing and talking about these manta ray like creatures, or they call them UFOs, obviously. But seeing these manta ray shaped style, the way they move, in the sky, and when you're hearing it, then you're like, what in the world? Like, what could that be? What kind of technology is out there that could imitate a manta ray? So I love this. That no, it's it is a manta ray. I love it.
There is one thing I did forget to say at the top is convergent evolution. And I'm using that word as in the species adapting over time, not the whole theory of evolution. But convergent evolution is when two species that are unrelated evolve to look similar or have the same body plan because they do the same niche, the same job in the environment. So that would be why these creatures look physically kind of like a manta ray, because that body plan is very efficient to be a big filter feeder. That's why whale sharks and whales look very similar, because they do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just nature will make the same key to fit the same hole, even though the backgrounds are very different. So that's when you'll see that pop up a lot. A lot of these creatures mimic open ocean creatures because it's the same environment, relatively speaking. It's not one's, they're very different, but there's a lot of similarities.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder. I now have a theory about these creatures.
Mm-hmm.
It just came to me. What if, when people take certain drugs that affect the pineal gland in their brain, what if doing that causes you to be able to see on a different spectrum of light, and these are the hallucinations they're seeing?
And that could be, I think that there may be later on something with them talking to you, or some version of something similar talking to you.
Yeah.
Because they seem, that's the last type. You guys already know what it is, but everybody at home may not.
Put a pin in that question.
Very excited that you figured out how to talk to them.
Put a pin in that question.
Yeah.
But the manta rays, I do feel, are just animalistic in nature. They're probably jellyfish-like, very low, if any, intelligence. Everything from their motions and their biological systems seem to not have a lot there, just like a jellyfish. Jellyfish are amazing creatures, but they're not going to score very well in any type of intelligence test. Not having a brain, kind of hurts that, or any kind of central nerve system.
It's kind of like Ryan.
Pretty much.
The next one are these sky squids.
Oh,
and
man.
You guys ever heard of a blanket octopus?
No.
All right, so these guys get mistaken for mermaids, sea turtles, and sharks. So the blanket octopus females, so the males are less than a couple inches wide. Females can get over 10 foot wide or 10 foot long. But two of their tentacles have these large flaps of skin that look like blankets. They go really long past the body and everything like that. They're open water squid or open water octopuses, which is kind of rare for an octopus in the mid-water column. But what these guys do is they're really good at mimicking shapes, and including humans. There have been people that have drowned trying to save drowned humans. So they see this human figure down below, and they're diving down to save him, and then it turns into a sea turtle and takes off. And that's because they're mimicking. They're mimic. So when sharks are around, they take the form of a shark. Sharks don't normally mess with other sharks too often. So like, okay, I'm going to look like a shark. People, I'm going to look like a person so I don't get messed with. Sea turtles is one of the more favorite shapes because generally most mid-level predators don't mess with the sea turtles. It's not worth their time. Tiger sharks are sea turtle specialists. That's one of the few things that really go after large sea turtles. But these things get mistaken for mermaids in the Gulf of Mexico constantly around the oil rigs and stuff like that. Fishermen, they'll see what they claim is a sea turtle changing in to a mermaid. It's an octopus, hyper intelligent creature. So why I told you that is these sky squids kind of have the same body plan. Is there's this basic trunk with a body and what we assume the organs and stuff like that, and these 2 or 3 super long tendrils that come off and can open like kites. They can be huge, but they've also been witnessed to pull back into the body, and then it kind of goes. Then it goes away very quickly. They start moving very fast. So what this is probably a communication display. So squids that we talk about in the ocean, the octopus, they communicate by color, by flashing colors, by talking. So this may be a way of long distance communication. It could be a breeding display of, hey, this is how big and powerful I am. This is how much frill I can support in the air. And then when it's, oh, is that a predator? It's time to take, tuck in and take off. There's one video, and I can send you guys the link here later, where a person outside of a jet videotaped these 2, what she thought were kites that were intertwining with each other and kind of dancing. And then when the jet got too close, they took off. They pulled in their sails and gone. It seems like a breeding display. So it seems like something, 2 creatures that were trying to, make more creatures. And then the jet got too close. Time to go. That's a predator.
Disturbed them.
Way to go, Jet. You ruined the romance.
What were the chances? I mean, come on. What were the chances?
I think they get seen a lot more often than people realize. So I think, and we could talk about that now or later, but I think they're dipping below the ozone layer. Kind of imagine the opposite of deep sea whales. There's these creatures called beaked whales. We know very little about them because their habitat in mostly the bottom of the ocean. You ever seen a tusked whale?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, that's what these guys are. They are the whales from old maps. They still exist today. A lot of these species are very threatened, but they literally have giant tusks coming out the side of their head. But we don't know a lot about them because they spend so much time at the bottom of the ocean. But these guys will come up and warm up every once in a while. Humpback whales stop off the coast of Florida because it's where the jet stream gets as close to the shoreline as anywhere. So you got these giant cold water open ocean creatures. They'll kind of go somewhere shallow and warm to relax, a beach day. So I think these creatures that are living up in these upper layers are dipping down below that to warm up, to relax, to maybe get away from predators. And I think when they get pushed down here, they're either feeding or they get knocked down here. Just because they get caught up in a storm system. Some of these creatures are not very powerful. The manta rays probably are not very powerful flyers. They're most likely gas-filled creatures that can be at the will of the wind. Your sky squids seem to have more power. They seem to be more agile and stuff like that, but still probably very susceptible to storm systems. We talked about the whale that ended up in the Amazon. You guys ever see that?
I don't think so.
He got caught up in a typhoon, and a humpback whale died. It was dead, but got stranded in the middle of the Amazon rainforest.
What?
Look up a picture. Up a picture. Humpback whale, Amazon rainforest.
That is nuts. That is.
And so it shows that these massive creatures, though, are still at the will of the wind or at the will of the storms.
Mother Nature.
Yeah. It don't matter how big you get. When a storm system comes by and you get caught in it, you're done. Humpback whale, suffered from this. So I think so our jets are right at that level. That 10 miles up is where most jets stay below. So I think that's when we're getting these encounters, especially with pilots we'll talk about here in a little bit, where they're kind of hanging out. But that's perfect. Do you guys have anything to say about sky squids?
No, they sound awesome though.
Yeah.
One of the rarer types for sure, but when you see them, they're pretty dramatic. The next group I have for you is called cyanophores. That's a big word. So cyanophores are a creature that lives in the ocean. Creatures. They're what's called a colonial organism.
Mm.
So these guys are not one animal, even though you ever seen a man o' war jellyfish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
It's not a jellyfish.
It's a cyanophore.
It's a cyanophore. That's actually thousands of different creatures that are holding together to form one body. The tentacles are one thing. The bell's one thing. The steering rudders are one thing. So you have all these deep sea creatures and open ocean creatures that are actually a bunch of little tiny guys that are kind of holding hands to form a body. You have creatures that are specifically designed for digestion. It's a really primitive way to first form a multicellular organism. But some of these creatures were so effective, they didn't get changed. They just like, this works. Some of the strangest creatures you will look up on the internet are in the cyanophore family. They look like worms with kites and horns attached to them. They look like pigs. They look like all these freaks. because it's not one creature. It's a whole bunch of creatures that are forming one body and reacting together. Very unique creatures. The world's a wonderful place.
You're blowing my mind, man. This is
well, you wanted science. I had to live up to the intro.
Yes.
Yeah, look, you're living up to it.
Basically, another thing is you can't make up a cryptid that's weirder than something that already exists in nature. I don't care who you are. I can point to you something that's 10 times weirder.
That's true, man. That's true. That's true. So, and that's awesome.
These cyanophores, their general shape is very worm-like. Imagine super long worms. Most of the time, they're either black or transparent with organs inside of them. And they're segmented like a worm. But each segment is more ballooned out. They're not as smooth. Most of the time, they look like they have a hammerhead that's really, really dark. So you ever heard of a bobbit worm? I know I'm giving you all kinds of creatures' names. So bobbit worms, you've seen them, have big, long jaws, and they snap shut. I think that's more of what we're seeing here is that's the actual jaws that are hanging off the side for aerodynamics and the creatures behind it. So a famous story I'll give you is the twister worm. So May 3rd, 99, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So the witness was a storm chaser, and Oklahoma gets tornadoes constantly.
Yeah.
And they go out and they get really close to this nice. What was it? I can't remember. I have it. Category 4, big tornado, monster. So they get close to it, and she sees what she thinks is a piece of clear, like a 200-foot long piece of clear piping is caught in the tornado. And so she's like, okay, she's recording it. And then she realizes it's a creature with this. It's a clear creature. You can see the organs inside of it. And you can see this giant hammerhead shape. And it looks like it's swimming in and out of the tornado. And it's also followed by hundreds of similar creatures that are a lot smaller. That look like they're trying to hug onto the body of the big one.
All around it.
Yeah. All around it. And then she sees it come out. She sees it go back in. And then they just, the tornado carries on. And she actually gave up storm chasing to it. It scared her so deeply. The creature, she did not like the look of it. It was very, very unearthly to her. But yeah, so that's the twister worm encounter. The biology behind it is probably similar to that of a bobbit worm. These sacs we're seeing, these segments of the body, are probably gas filled. And you ever heard of the Crawfordsville monster?
Mm-mm.
It's another similar kind of cryptid from the 1800s, something like that. Had an eye in its mouth and had this big jaw, and it had all these. So cyanophores have these what look like hairs. They're actually fins running down their body, and that's what these creatures have. But so the actual segments are gas filled most likely, and they use these little hairs, these little fins, to speed up and be very, very aggressive and very, very fast, and very, very maneuverable. And not having a fixed body like that. These are probably your sharks. These are probably your predators. They've seen everything. There's hundreds of stories about them. They seem very fast, very fluid, and very, very agile. I think these are your guys that are eating everybody else.
Predators. Mm-hmm. What would that be compared to in the ocean?
Your sharks. These are your sharks.
There you go.
These are your guys that aren't as big as some of the other guys, but they're not somebody you want to be around.
They're aggressive, or could be.
Yeah. I don't think they're messing with people a whole lot just because of their biology. But it's definitely something you don't want to be in front of if you don't have to.
Yeah, for sure. That's that's wild.
The next one is atmospheric amoebas.
And just recently, Tom DeLonge, that dude from Blink-182, now he's doing like UFO disclosure, which I don't know if I really believe all this stuff.
Trust him.
I think it might be misdirection or whatever it could be. But he did just talk about recently about sky amoebas, and he said there's so many of them up there, which I thought was kind of interesting.
They are.
That it was mentioned. Maybe soft disclosure somehow.
But so
I think sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off right there. I think Tom DeLonge falls into that category of there's a hint of truth there somewhere, just so you can steer people and make them hang on to that hint of truth, and then take everything else in and say, oh yeah, dude's totally legit. Like he's getting all like he's acting like he's the modern day Bob Lazar or something, like it's
right.
I'm like,
we know he's not. Yeah. We know.
Yeah. Like, listen, I played your album to death when I was a teenager. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But just because you were had your pants down and toilet paper streaming in the wind in a super cool MTV video doesn't mean that the government's just going to call you up and say, we're going to tell you everything we know about UFOs and aliens.
And, he might be 100% believing it too. Like whatever they're feeding him or whatever info he's got, he might believe it 100%. But yeah, I think it works that way. You get that little nugget of truth and then add all this other crap in it and just steer you down in the misdirection land.
I call him Candyman is like what you were describing, the misleader, that little nugget, keep you going. Or what is the other one? Useful idiot.
Yeah, useful idiot. Yeah.
They're like, we're going to tell you everything. Go tell everybody.
Yep.
Go spread it for us.
You are the chosen one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If anybody at home, if anybody ever tells you anything like that, you're the chosen one. We think you're that special. Here's this information. Run. It's a trap. They're going to eat you.
Oh man. I hear that all the time.
Yeah. Be careful. They're giving you a lot of like buttery stuff too.
Yeah. Right. Fattening me up.
Telling you it's just on the couch. Don't worry, we'll get it.
Dang it.
There's reasons. You gotta be careful. Appalachia's a dangerous place.
Hey, especially in Appalachia.
That's for sure. Even without people trying to butter you up.
We're in the Midwest part of Ohio. We're not in the foothills.
Right, yeah.
We just got corn here. Hence the name.
It's still close though. You're close enough to the foothills of Appalachia that we can
smell them.
I was gonna say, if I stand on the roof of this house, I think I can see them.
Yeah, it's so flat here.
Yeah.
You can see till where it gets hilly. But yeah, atmospheric amoebas. So these guys are like living clouds. These guys don't have a shape as hard, like a hard shape as we've talked about with the other types. They seem to be almost giant gas-filled sacs or amoeba-like. A really famous story with them is the raining of bones in Louisiana, where this giant dark cloud hung over this town and proceeded to throw up a whole bunch of gar bones and gar scales. So anybody at home that don't know, gars have basically, they're armored fish. They have ganoid scales. So these scales are actually big chunks of bone they are interlocking. I think these guys are your scavengers. They seem to come around dumps, come around these areas that have a lot of food being produced. They eat it, and whatever they can't eat, they throw up. Just like a lot of creatures we have on this planet. Eat it all, digest what you can, get rid of the rest. But these guys are seen almost exclusively around storm systems. We had a friend that's coming on the show. Don't name who it is.
I will not.
So we have a friend coming on the show that she witnessed what looked like a cloud, and during a tornado, she filmed it. A cloud gets smacked out of the sky like it was a solid thing, and then zigzag through her neighborhood, trying not to touch anything. Like this, she purposely, before I told her any of this, she told us this story before we even told her we were working on any of this. It was zigzagging around like it was trying purposely not to touch anything. And then when it got to some place I think it felt safe, it disappeared. What most likely happened, in my opinion, is this is a very jellyfish-like or amoeba-like creature that has a very soft membrane. The storm system was causing it not to be able to get up in the atmosphere. So it's near hard structures. So jellyfish do not want to touch anything hard because it rips them apart. They're such softly built, it can be very dangerous. So that's why this creature it was not changing its color or its appearance on the outside because it was focusing on not being ripped apart by mailboxes and trees. Then once it got somewhere safe and tucked back, it changed color like an octopus or some other creatures to fit the environment around it until probably the storm passed and it could get back up or it died. When jellyfish die, there's not much left and they dissolve very quickly. We talked about with salamanders, when they die, a creature with bones and organs like us, when they die, they pretty much dissolve in a day.
Mm-hmm. Well, shoot, you had one.
Yeah, I breed salamanders and stuff. And we had one pass when it was alive when we were in the studio in the morning. We came back, it was pretty much nothing.
Nothing in the tank. It's like it disappeared.
Gosh.
So you can have these soft-bodied creatures disappear very fastly. But that's pretty much, there's a couple stories of atmospheric amoebas. Most of the time they get classified as living clouds or living fogs. The pink fog of Ireland is a kind of famous one that's been experienced for about 2,000 or 3,000 years. And they just say it's kind of a big pink fog that kind of comes over you and you lay on the ground. You're supposed to lay on the ground and let it pass you. And they said it feels like a dog's tongue or dog or cat's tongue that's going over top your whole body.
Huh.
Holy crap.
So, these are your guys that look like clouds that are trying to be clouds.
Bunch of posers.
Mm-hmm. The
Clouds
last one
are
I got
pink.
for you.
Right.
He's trying his best.
Nice try, buddy.
I mean, you ever heard like raining blood and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So we had a story we just talked about recently. And that may have been, was that on Patreon?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, it's too many.
Where literally one black cloud was hovering over this town and it proceeded to rain blood, thick, viscous blood. But there was only one cloud and then it threw up all, well, I could say threw up because I have opinions, but it threw up all this blood and then left. Like it was just sitting there, threw up everything it didn't want and left. That one had like dozens of witnesses, including a pastor.
It was
like
on their shirts.
Yeah.
Like, they had the,
He had his whole gown and stuff was stained. You know, I think that one was in the 1800s too. That's very biblical. Oh, and then there was the one they shot.
that's
I
right.
forgot about that. You can kill these things, just so everybody knows at home. A couple guys in Chile, a couple miners in Chile, basically seen one kind of flying really slow over, and they proceeded to just keep shooting it until it crashed and died. And then it kind
Wow.
of just, yeah. And then the Smithsonian came and cut it up.
Of course they did. Freaking
Yeah.
Smithsonian. I just want you to know you gave every card carrying member
Don't
of the
do
Hill
it.
Folk out there the green light to just go out in their front yard and start shooting at every cloud that goes over.
Please,
son.
they're harmless. I promise.
Yeah. We do not endorse the killing of these creatures.
Right.
Yeah, I think
We
they're already
don't
in
know
enough
what
trouble.
role they play, man. We might need
Right.
these guys.
I agree.
This last type I
Uh-oh.
They are very fast, very intelligent movements. They can stop on a dime. They can change really quickly. So the famous one is the Tic Tac UFO. When we first watched it, I even said, "This is like a dolphin playing with a tugboat." This creature, this thing is so much faster and more smooth in its movements. It's like playing. It's playing with its fighter jet. And when I got bored, it just left. And that's what dolphins do. And it seems to be really intelligent. There are some other there's a lot of these. There's a famous one with the pilot had one of these things cruising near his jet. And so I'm not a pilot, but I guess all pilots are supposed to have a signal mirror in their pocket in case they crash and stuff so they can signal for rescue. So this UFO that he described it really weird as if the skin of it was quivering, but it was a solid shape. As it was flying beside him going, I can't remember, it was like 500 some miles per hour. It was comfortably just hanging there. And he took this mirror out and he started flashing it. And the UFO sees it and starts flashing back the same pattern in random colors. And then he keeps doing this back and forth, and they do this for like 5 or 6 minutes. And it seems whatever it was got bored with the game and just kind of peeled off and left. He said it was, he was going 500 something miles an hour and just was out of there. When it was done with the game, it was out. These seem to be very intelligent, very interested in us. They are very interested in nuclear bases and power plants and junkyards, garbage yards. Probably because it's really similar to their food source. So we think these guys are mushrooms or fungus.
Mm-hmm.
These creatures are, and we got a lot to talk about for fungus. I know you guys were waiting for this one. Sorry I had to do so much before, an hour's worth of stuff.
No, it's good. It's good.
I just feel like the other guys don't get enough love, and I love them too.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to show them love too. Big
But,
clouds
these
need
guys-
love too.
Yeah. The big clouds need we need to do that as a sticker.
Yeah.
No, so these guys are hyper intelligent. They kind of fit your classic UFO shape. So they're really interested, like I said, nuclear bases. So fungi love some species. That's a gigantic group of organisms. They're more closely related to animals than they are plants, but they are not closely related to anybody. But they love nuclear waste. Some species, the byproducts, they freaking love them. Junkyards, they love them. It's just a slurry of food. If you can eat that stuff. So that's one thing we did early on. It was really weird. We were talking about how many UFO encounters are right beside junkyards
Mm-hmm.
and landfills. It was a stupid number. It was a big.
It was a weird coincidence. And
we're like, why? It's probably because these things are eating them. They're eating off these fluid-filled areas, highly nutritious food for them in vast amounts of quantities. But yeah, incredibly fast. And the intelligence. So Betty and Barney Hill. Everybody knows Betty and Barney Hill abduction. They were followed by a craft. And then they basically got pulled over, and then this craft came and landed down. So background of Betty and Barney Hill. Betty and her sister loved UFOs. They read every UFO book of the time. They were very open to having experience with UFOs. Barney lived a very scary, rough life. He was a postmaster in a town. He was a black man, but he was a postmaster in a time when black men were not allowed to have any authority. He was, the head postmaster of his town, and he was well liked in his town, but not when he was out. And he married a white woman at a time where that was a shootable offense.
Yeah.
So he lived. I feel so bad for the man, but he was a ball of stress and nerves, and he died not very young, but he died young due to this. So he had the mindset, a very negative mindset going into this encounter. So you see these two approach a very similar craft with very similar entities, vastly different experiences. Betty, was shown around the craft, got handed a book she didn't get a key, got all this nice, talked to very nicely. Barney was borderline raped. Barney was tortured. So when we talk about psychedelics, your mindset affects your trip heavily. And I've never done psychedelics, so don't take my word for it, but we talked to people before we did that episode.
Right, yeah.
Just to make sure.
I mean, I think it's well documented.
Yes.
Your state of mind going in really plays a big outcome on what experience you have when you are tripping or whatever you're experiencing.
So the psychedelic property in mushrooms is psilocybin. So psilocybin can be, most of the time you get it from magic mushrooms and you eat it, but they can also shed it in their spores and just have it on their skin or, basically their surface. So you can just get high from being around certain species of mushroom. Not know what happens. So I think these creatures are using this as a feeding opportunity. So they leave, and then they kind of are in a weird kind of state, and they wake up closer to home, but they've already been driving. That's kind of like coming off a mushroom trip, where you're kind of there, you're kind of not, and then you get home, and then the Men in Black show up. And here's the famous question: they asked Barney hundreds of questions. Or only one stuck out to him. Did you have any nitrates in the car? And Barney's like, well, what the hell's a nitrate? I don't know. And so the Men in Black goes through a couple of nitrates. It could be processed food, fertilizer, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I had 400 pounds of fertilizer in the trunk. He's like, I don't even know why I had 400 pounds of fertilizer in the trunk. I had 400 pounds of fertilizer in the trunk. He's like, well, do you still have it? Like, oh, no, I don't. I don't know why. And then the Men in Black ended that line of questioning and moved on very quickly. In the 60s and 70s, this question was being asked almost every Men in Black interrogation.
Mm-hmm. Which, we found the list of
it was
the questions they'd asked, and that was on
every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The other famous one is a hot dog truck, and I believe this was in Illinois. I may be wrong. A hot dog truck guy got abducted, came back, sat in his truck after the abduction, and all the hot dogs were gone. Anybody knows, for your health, the hot dogs are full of nitrates. And there was a couple other fertilizer plants that UFOs kept stealing fertilizer. Why are UFOs stealing fertilizer? We're going to talk, it's high, if you are a fungi, it's a high dense food. So let's say you are an airborne creature, you're picking something to eat that is the most value for its weight. Why they probably don't eat us? It's because we have a lot of parts that take a lot more work to digest, and it's not worth the weight. 200 pounds, I'm 300 pounds, but so 300 pounds of meat with blood and bone and stuff is too much work to digest versus 300 pounds of fertilizer, which the food is already broke down for you. It's right there. You just got to take it. So then it gets into the question. Well, so fungi have mycelia networks are the vast networks of fungus, like mushrooms, that they use underground to communicate with each other in kind of like their vascular system. We have one fossil that's 810 million years old of a hyper-developed mycelia network. So they were already developed like they are today 810 million years ago. So they've had a hell of a long time to take all kinds of weird shapes. They've survived every mass extinction with little to no effect. They don't care. They just don't care. So these flying ones seem to have some kind of intelligence. And we talked about, well, I guess I should stop talking for a second. You guys have anything? I'm sorry. I get on a roll.
Keep rolling, man. This is awesome.
So these things seem to, we want to talk about the abduction phenomena. These things seem to target repeat offenders. Like, so these people that keep claiming to have, fetuses being implanted and then taken back out at 4 months and stuff like that, they could be using us as a host species. And all people are like, well, why are they using us? Large-bodied mammals. What you want warm? Pick the one that has health care.
Yeah.
Cows, humans. Think about the population too, the number of large-bodied creatures. Who are you picking? Are you going to mess with an elephant in Africa when there's 30,000 of them? Are you going to pick the thing there's 8 billion of?
Yeah.
What's easier? And why do they use repeat ones? Well, if one person was a host very well, just keep using that one.
It works. And
it could be obviously we're speculating highly on the biology of a creature that may or may not exist. So this is, at this point, this is storytelling. Just so everybody at home knows. It's educated storytelling. But they could be, so this is the abduction phenomena. But these creatures seem to be very, very intelligent. They seem to appear metal at first until something hits them, or they stop on a dime. There was that one on the Uinta Basin, that famous video of this UFO, this classic Tic Tac or almond shaped UFO, dive bombing out of the sky like it just fell, and the last second twisting and taking off. It looked just like a bald eagle. Have you guys ever seen bald eagles? How they select a mate? So everybody at home, they lock claws and they just drop, and the male has to not let go before the female to prove that he's a worthy mate. And bald eagles are documented hitting the ground and dying during this. So it seems just like that. There's all these things you can look at with these UFOs. Like that, it doesn't make sense looking at it from a nuts and bolts aspect. But when you take this mindset and you look at it as it's an organic thing, it makes all the sense. All the pieces start clicking. And this, again, is just some UFOs.
Yes, a small percentage.
And because, our black triangles, our ones that are beaming, a whole bus aboard, that's probably not something alive per se. But I do think there's this whole biology in the upper atmosphere that's above us that we are just every once in a while getting a glimpse of.
Because you can only see so much with your naked eye. And there's only so much we've explored, just like the ocean. We explored 5% of the ocean.
Yeah.
How much of the atmosphere have we actually explored,
None. I mean, pretty much, relatively speaking, in percentage-wise, it's the biggest available environment on the planet. It goes 85 miles up, and it's the whole planet.
Let's just put some of our tax funding, and it's something actually useful. Just build a giant net that reaches, 50 miles in the sky.
I think you'll catch jelly.
There we go. Proof.
But there was one report of when the first space shuttles were leaving the planet, and it's whatever you want to believe. I know me and Jay argue on stuff. There was one part they had green slime on the window. They didn't know what it was. And it was probably they hit a big cloud of something alive. And it just didn't get out of the way in time.
Huh.
But
they just got slimed. Ghostbusters slimed.
Yeah. What's the name of that ghost, the big green booger?
The Slimer?
Is it Slimer?
Slimer.
Yeah.
But mushrooms
they killed him.
Are a whole nother topic if you guys want to get into that. The actual intelligence of mushrooms, because I think this is very underrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. And if I'm not mistaken, we're even using mushrooms in computer chips and things now.
Indeed.
To make them faster, because that's how they can think. It's freaking nuts.
They're faster than any other biological system, and they're faster than any electronic system. Their ability to transfer data is insane.
Do you guys know about the Japanese subway system?
Oh yeah.
They use slime molds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, listen,
Everybody-
I'm a huge fan of Paul Stamets, and that guy. Yeah, I listen to him every chance I get. But
Yeah.
that's nuts. Redesign
So
the entire subway system.
efficiently, more efficient than any
Mhm.
human could ever think.
Yeah.
Because they're not smart like us. They're very different. It's what I like to say, it's halfway between a robot and a human. It's still probably the same level of intelligence, but the way they think, the way they interact is probably somewhere in the middle. They're not
Right.
fully computerized where it's, ones and zeros, kind of lateral thinking, but they're not hyper emotional, hyper in-depth beings like us. They're probably somewhere in the middle where they have some type of emotional connection, but they also think on a weighing it out, food versus cost kind of metric. That's why it's so hard to understand them. It's because they're alien, not as an alien from another planet. Alien is that they are so biologically different than us. It might as well be from another planet or another dimension, because it's hard to look at them and realize that they're thinking and talking to each other. That they have everybody at home's probably seen the mushroom synthesizers. So they literally developed a synthesizer that gets plugged into mushrooms, and it's not neural pulses. It's not a neural pulse, but it's their version of a neural pulse. Every sound that thing makes is them thinking, is them talk, is them doing them internally doing stuff. But it's not something that most people think is possible. And so I know we're going to talk about our buddy Bob here in a second.
So, like, next time you see that big mushroom in your yard,
say hi.
You don't want to just run over and kick it like a field goal. Treat it with a little more, dignity.
And I promise I'm about to talk about your pineal gland thing.
All right.
But Bob, so everybody at home, Bob is the single largest living thing to ever exist, as far as we know. And that's a really broad term. We only actually know about 1% of 1% of all life that's ever existed on this planet.
Yeah.
So that's 1% of 1%.
He may be a little smaller than giant trees, but
oh my God, I hate you.
Neither here nor
there. Hate you. Sorry, it was a bad episode for me. Now you got me all off track. Bob, he is roughly 220 acres if you were to put him as one solid block. And that's only if he goes down. So he's a honeycomb mushroom. That's his species. That's the family he belongs to. There are smaller ones. We have them here in Ohio. They're not 220 acres big, but we have a similar species to Bob. So if he's classically just as deep, so most people don't realize the thing you see that you call a mushroom is the budding body. That's the sexual organs. The most of the mushroom is underground and looks more like a big pile of internet cables. That's the actual entity. That's the actual living thing, is that what you see and what you pick and eat is the sexual body. So Bob, if you took all of his underground bits, if he's classically just as deep as a normal honeycomb, he's 220 acres if you put them all together. He has a whole national forest on his back that recently so Bob is integrated, not just talking. We used to think they just talk to trees. He is not talking to these trees. He's integrated and actually controlling what they produce for him. And Bob, there's not fossil evidence, there's geo evidence that Bob has selectively been killing sections of forest on his back to promote grassland growth to re-nutrify the soil. And he does this like a big wheel over his back, so he makes sure he has food. So he is taking care of this entire forest because it's beneficial to him. He is integrated in insects, he's integrated in plants and other fungi. How they discovered Bob, you guys ever hear the story how they discovered Bob?
Yeah, I think so.
So
with the cutting of the tree.
They did a core sample into the ground, and they cut one of his major roots off, and 100 acres of trees died the next day. These trees could no longer function without Bob, and they didn't know what happened. It was like fall overnight. Like every tree lost its leaves and died that night. Then they started doing DNA testing. We didn't know how big Bob was until we had DNA evidence. So we started taking a cell from this mushroom over here and this mushroom halfway across the forest and that one way over there on top of the mountain. Like, oh, they're genetically identical, so they must be clones. Did some more research with basically like dyes, colored dyes. We're like, oh no, they're all the same thing. They're not just clones. It's all him. They're all connected. So we really don't know how big Bob is, but people like to say 220 acres. Bob thinks. Bob can transfer data across his whole system from one side to the other faster than any mammal. So the neural time it takes, like, let's say you pinched a blue whale's tail, how long that signal took to get to the brain and bounce back is like half a second or something like that. Not very long relatively when you're talking about a 120-foot long creature to react, to get a signal of pain or just any sense and then react. Bob can do it like 3 or 4 times faster. It's not possible, but it is. It's insane. As conventional biology, they shouldn't exist.
I have a feeling someone's going to create a movie now, like this giant mushroom forest that just eats people, Bob, like miles away.
I was actually listening to it was like an audio horror drama. It's this one different show. Mushrooms that were operating and kind of, releasing spores onto these people and like controlling everything that they did, and just that entire concept.
What's the video game?
Oh,
with the clickers, those are fungus too. I can't remember the name.
I can't remember the name of the game either.
Emily and her dad used to play it, and I can't remember it. But that's a fungus-based horror game where it's the whole thing is fungus. They're all fungus. I remember calling Jay and screaming that into the phone.
No, they're all mushrooms. Yeah.
They're all mushrooms.
Yeah, yelling.
Because it finally clicked one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Bob's humongous. Bob is an amazing thing. And there's a couple other members of his family that are quite large. But Bob may go deeper than we want to believe. And this is where we talk about with archaeology and other biology, is that we don't look outside the box because we think we know everything in the box. We only look for what should be there. We don't go past this.
Anthropology.
Yeah, we don't go past these levels. We don't go past these marks because technically we've never seen it before. The whole planet's full of stuff we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So look a little deeper. Bob may go down, most of their species don't go lower than 8 foot deep. Maybe Bob goes 10. That may double his size. Maybe Bob goes down 15. He may be 100 times bigger at that time. Maybe Bob goes down 100 foot. Maybe there's a cavern down there and it's all Bob.
Like the
we don't know,
like tunnels and Stranger Things under the town.
So Bob, like I said, is 44 to 45,000 years old by most estimates. But I believe he's much older, probably pushing 100 or so. I also think he's a lot bigger than people give him credit for. He's been here. His species been here long before us, and they'll be here long after. But like you said, with pineal gland and people opening up that side of their brain and talking to things. And you ever done the psychedelic test with those entities? Or heard anybody do the test with them? So to see if they're actually entities, and not just figments of your brain, because you're also doing a psychedelic. So not only do you have the possibility of opening up to maybe some other way or other thing on this planet or this plane, you're also tripping your brain out. So who's to tell whether it's something real or something you're making up? You do the test. You ask so supposedly these entities that exist in this world have been getting all of our information buzzed to them electronically since we met at the internet. And that's the only way they found out about us. They didn't know about us, even though they've been living here a lot longer than we have. And I'm getting at, these are mushrooms. These are fungi that are around us. They've been getting this information since the internet stuff. We've been putting it out into the air. That's when they discovered us. Because their way of life, their life cycle is so different than us. We're just as alien to them as they are to us. So they have just as much trouble understanding us as we do them. I think we're very animate. We talk. We have very complex emotions. We're not one thing, even though we move as one, we don't move as one. So you ask these entities for something real simple, but something you wouldn't know. You ask them for like an address of a dentist's office in Australia. And see if they give you an address. And I picked that because Finding Nemo. Because Sherman, whatever way.
243 Wallaby Sherman, whatever it is.
Yeah,
P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
There we go.
That's it. That was it. Holy crap. That was the most impressive thing all night.
So you ask them that and see what you get back. But as you were talking about, these things seem to express a lot of excitement. that you figured out this way to talk to them. That's the common thing with psilocybin trips, is that when you talk to these things, they seem really excited. Like, we're so glad you figured out this way to talk to us. It's not like your classic extraterrestrials or interdimensional creatures, because they're not, in my opinion. You're talking to something that's probably outside your house that is so excited to talk to you because it knows you're there, but it can't experience you. Like, we know they're there and we can't experience them. We're on different wavelengths. We're in different planes of existence, even though we're occupying the exact same space, and we can do stuff to directly affect each other negatively and positively. But we can't talk to a mushroom. You can't walk outside. Well, you can, but you can't. You're not going to get a reply. And who's to say it's going to understand that? It's just getting all this information buzzed to them. And when we go in these maybe, and that's maybe, this is all, everything I've said tonight is speculative. You are communicating with these things that are living outside, these large mushroom clusters. And you're talking to them and they're talking to you. So that's kind of the thing with the opening the pineal gland and stuff like that. There are negative entities, I do believe, that may be using that. I'm very religious. I'm Christian. I do think demons can use about anything they want to, get to you. So you got to be really careful when you're talking to anything. Everybody, never use a Ouija board, please.
Yeah.
Especially tripping on shrooms.
Yeah.
What you should be doing when you're tripping on shrooms is sitting in a beanbag chair and relaxing.
Talking to Carl, the mushroom, out in your front yard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did we name the one? I can't remember. We named it out back.
I can't remember. That was this summer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was big though. Like,
he got big because I wouldn't let Doug kill him.
Your dog, your German Shepherd.
Knock him over. Knock the stamen over.
Right.
They have gills and stamen. Very weird. Very, very odd entities. Their biological background is very muddy. So, like I said, we had mycelia network fossils from 810 million years ago. Everything else then was slime. If you want to believe classic evolution, stuff like that. And I don't, as in the full theory of evolution. I do believe species adapt over time, yada, yada, yada. I do believe in a crater, So take what you will from what I say. But if you look at the classic fossil scale, at that time period, nothing else was very developed. But these guys already had their mycelia networks nailed. So they've had a long time to get better. So when most creatures, before even plants were on dry land, mushrooms were the size of small houses.
They were the trees.
Mm-hmm. So they've been around in a very complex form for a very long time. And I do think they are probably the first intelligent entities on the planet. And they live such long life cycles, and they live such a different life cycle than anything else on this planet. They manipulate. So 95%, I did leave the statistic out, 95% of plants on this planet could not exist without fungus at some point in their life cycle. That's
wow.
Every plant could not exist right now. They either use it to germinate their seed, they use it at some point of reproduction. They can't, if mushrooms disappeared tomorrow, 95% of plants would go extinct within a year. And fungus is also found in every environment on the planet, from deep sea thermal vents to Antarctica. They live in the ice. They don't care. To the upper atmosphere. We find them up there. In small, so I think there's bigger ones. I think that's your silver disc. And they're very excited to meet you.
I love this. I love all of this. It's just, gosh.
This is just goes right back to what I've been saying. Mushrooms rule everything.
I think they're very indifferent to us normally too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you said. Like, okay, think about it this way. Yes, they're living in the same space, talking about, physical plane, all of this and that. But, even with, like, say, pets, like your dogs, you can still communicate with your dogs. It may be through, like, body language and certain, barks and yelps and the way they wag their tail and the excitement when they see you and the sadness when you scold them. There's still ways. It may not be like spoken language, but there's still ways to communicate with your pets. And I just mentioned dogs. Yeah, absolutely. But with these things, there's no real way to communicate in an emotional way that you know what they're thinking. Like they don't know what we're thinking. So when you look at it from that realm or that line of thought, why would they care? You know, why would it matter to them what we're doing as long as we are not, you know, taking a core sample and drilling through a giant root and killing off half of a system that it's trying to operate to feed itself. But even then, it's probably like, well, you know, yeah, that sucks.
But there was a glacier on my back 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, for real. For real. I mean, it took out the pyramids in Antarctica that I built.
we had a listener email us about that. That they are fueling stations for flying mushrooms.
Holy crap.
It's I'm trying to get him on the show because it's a very complex idea that I don't fully grasp. But he has it worked out. But what you're not talking about.
Oh my gosh.
I know. We know nothing. We really know nothing.
So I just forgot what I was going to say. They seem to be very excited to us, and I think it's the same thing. So why are humans really excited about aliens? Because we're worried about being alone. We're worried about being the only sentient being here, and it feels very lonely in the void. I think they feel the same way in some time, or in some aspect. It's their version of that feeling. So I think that's when they connect with us. That's why they're so excited. It's because it's proof. Hey, we're not alone. They're basically living in, like we've said 100 times already, in an alien environment on the same plane. The way they function, you're not talking about an animal. You're not talking about a mammal. You're not talking about an animal. You're talking about something that's so much more ancient that it actually looks like animals broke off of fungi a long time ago. So they were here first for a long time. So it just, I fully believe they're sentient in some form, whether you want to believe they're like us and they're sitting there talking to each other and they're having this really in-depth conversation about us on this other plane. These creatures move so fast. It's like ghosts. And every once in a while we get a transmission from them. And every once in a while, Tim, somebody gets abducted.
Tim.
It's just, so it's just so weird. But we don't understand the neural pulses, and that they're not neural pulses. I don't want somebody to write and complain. They're their version of neural pulses. They think. We just don't know how to read it yet because it's such a foreign system. Like we've said already, I know I repeat myself a lot. It's an alien, and as in the aspect of it being so biologically foreign to us, it's like getting handed a language with no atlas or no description of the letters or anything like that you do not understand.
Like the Voynich manuscript. It was written by a mushroom.
There you go. Probably was.
Yeah.
So you get handed this.
This all leads back to aliens dropped them here to terraform this planet to what we needed it to be.
See, they terraform this planet for them.
What if, the day comes where, you pass on to the afterlife, and for the sake of the argument, let's just say you believe in that too. You're ready to meet your maker, the blinding lights dim down, you see who it is, and it's just one big old mushroom.
If God is a mushroom.
Ryan, stop licking God.
You gonna go out back and talk to him again? Call him God now?
Gosh, I better not.
Our neighbors already think we're crazy. Jay's in the backyard calling the mushroom there God.
Hands and hands.
Hey God.
Praying, yeah.
The poor neighbors. They're nice, but they know we're weird. I have a 9-foot Bigfoot in the backyard that looks into their yard.
That's awesome.
God bless them because they're good neighbors.
Yeah, they would have to be. They would have to be. That's like all the people around me and Ryan too. They're just completely fine with us being super weirdos and doing and saying the things that we do.
Yeah, there's a lot worse things out there.
This house is basically a zoo, and the neighbors' little girls will come over and play with the animals and stuff like that. You got tortoises and turtles and snakes and salamanders, birds. What else am I forgetting?
Oh gosh, well,
a lot of fish.
Tortoises. I think he said that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
That's awesome.
they're all fungus.
Yeah.
Fungus is among us.
Name of one of our best episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, y'all go check that one out.
Yeah.
Go do it. He'll folk. Check that episode out. That's what led this match made in fungi heaven with Mushroom God.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I didn't give you a chance to talk. I know I'm bad. I do it to Jay. Not my show.
Dude, you were blowing my mind. This is like all these theories I've had as you're speaking. I'm like, shit, that fits. Shit, that proves that to me.
Some puzzle pieces connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's like you're saying, yeah, even if it is a small percentage of the UFOs that are seen, that are witnessed, that are observed, even if it is just a small percentage, you take that abduction aspect of it. A lot of these abductees will talk about, or for years and years and years say, well, I just thought it was a dream. I just thought that it was, this or that, it was some form of out of body experience, something in the astral plane, something. Well, what they describe, it sounds a lot like someone describing a psychedelic trip.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a living organism that wanted to use humans, just for instance, as a host, as a carrier, as some way to further advance their agenda, whatever it may be, dude, that makes sense. Like, well, all I got to do is give them a little dose of me. They're going to freak out for a while. I can just feed whatever info I want to feed into their brain. How many times do these abductees say, well, these entities never spoke to me, but everything was telepathically?
It's because you're creating that thing. And that could evolve, because think about, so that's the whole thing, is this couldn't just come from them using people. It's had to be a long-term system that they've already developed. If you're tripping out a cow, not a cow, let's use the scientific Bos taurus, the prehistoric version of cow, the non-domestic cow is called Bos taurus or Bos indicus, that you want them to be really calm. If you're going to try to insert what your version of an embryo is in them, you're going to want them to be still. So you trip them out, and that cow is just staring into space. And it's just imagining a happy day. And then you plant the embryo, and you just got to remember what cow it was when you come back 3 months to take it back out.
Let's mark this. That's also how branding was invented.
Fun fact.
We learned from mushrooms.
Property of mushroom aliens.
Ryan,
I was going to say earlier, we need to put that on a t-shirt, but I think that would probably be a terrible, terrible idea for a t-shirt.
What?
Don't lick God. That's a terrible t-shirt idea.
Don't lick God.
You have to explain the t-shirt to everybody you see, and that's the problem.
That would be the issue.
That would be the issue.
People would be like, what?
A lot of church moms angry with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that anyway. I mean, it's hard to lead a teen ministry and have a Ryan. It's hard.
It's
hard to find balance.
They need both sides of the story here.
So me and my wife are 4-H advisors, and I'm actually for our county. I'm on the fair committee and the poultry committee. I help run a lot of stuff with the kids. And every once in a while, there'll be a kid come up and be like, ask me about Bigfoot or something like that. I gotta look at their parent and be like, well, how much does your dad want you to know? Like, are you guys going camping this year? Or like, do you want me to just tell you he's your friendly forest giant? Like, and I'm looking at the dad or the mom most of the time, like, you want me to really answer this or not?
Right.
Or what are aliens? It's like, we get weird questions at 4-H.
Oh, I bet.
Because we're those people.
Yeah, I bet. Well, we've our show, I have no idea why. I think I need to write a complaint. But teachers at our local high school have been showing certain episodes of our show, like in class, to these students and stuff. So there's like kids in my teen ministry, friends of my kids, because I have 2 kids in high school, like they're coming up and they're asking these questions, and they're like, I saw a Snapchat story the other day that had my face like screenshotted here on YouTube. And it said, I don't even remember, but like I seen a picture of me on this Snapchat story from one of these kids, and I'm like, what is going on here? Number one, what kind of teachers are letting your kids listen to this stuff?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get a little colorful. And number two, how did this happen? I don't have a clue how this happened.
I told Justin what I need to do is give him the talk and explain how to make a baby, but not all at once, just intermittently throughout the episode, like interrupt a guest even. And then teach them about if you don't want a baby, the only 100% thing is, number 2 hole, the poop hole loophole.
Loophole.
So, I did a very similar thing with Jay's address.
Whoa. Oh, I thought you were talking about the poop hole loophole.
I did a very similar thing. I slowly gave out Dre's address through like all of season 1 of our show.
Yeah.
So if anybody really wanted to find Jay, they could.
Yeah, thanks.
But it's like that. It just we randomly one section of the address in one of the episodes. Good luck. Here you go.
Yeah, your little hints here and there, breadcrumbs.
Yeah. I should just put it in the description of episodes.
Yeah.
So I know you're a Christian. I believe you're both are Christians, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or no? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I just wonder, how does this stuff affect your guys' faith? Because it's kind of, in this kind of field, you don't find a whole lot of very religious Christian people, because I think it all goes hand in hand personally. You can't have one without the other kind of deal. But I'm curious to hear more.
Well, that's the way I've always felt and thought about it as well. I've always, from the time, well, I can't say always. I got, God saved me back in 2014, I think 2013, 2014. And, it was one of those things beforehand, like all this ancient alien stuff, the Anunnaki, all this ancient history, the gods and the God, like I was all in it. So when God did save me and he was like, okay, look, this is your paradigm now. This is your worldview. This is what this means. That's the stuff I started diving into. And I was like, okay, so how do I explain this? How does the Bible explain this? Because you guys know as well as I do, and you hear it all the time, the modern day church don't do a very good job of, lining up and saying, well, yeah, these are people's stories. This is what people are seeing. This is what's going on in the world. And here's where you can find it biblically. It's either just, well, no, you're crazy. That doesn't exist. That's not real. Or, something along those lines. Or we're just going to shun you, turn our back and say, I don't know. So when you look at it and you find out and you realize, like I did, that the Bible is one of the most supernatural books that's ever been written. And we have a supernatural God who can do whatever he wants to do, can create whatever he wants to create, can use whatever situation. And I mean, he spoke all this into existence. So you're telling me that a God that spoke, me and you sitting here talking to each other hundreds of miles away over a screen into existence, that we can't have a cloud of amoebas that are getting really, really, really full and then regurgitating blood onto a city? I mean, sounds to me like something that happened in Egypt in Exodus.
Also, if this is a simulation, you can have whatever they program.
Yeah. Well, even looking into simulation theory, like people will say, well, if you're a Christian, you can't believe in simulation theory. You can't believe. Well, why not?
God spoke to Siri and had Siri create.
I believe that we are getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the technology that they talk about, that Jesus himself talks about in the days of Noah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have in the beginning, God spoke creation into existence, And now I can sit in my recliner and speak to a little whatever it is and have my lights turn on and off and my TV turn on and off and the volume change and whatever music or podcast or movie or whatever I want to have happen. You know, I am creating something in my physical world, in my reality.
Mm-hmm.
How's God any different than what a computer programmer does? Say a computer programmer sits down, creates a open world video game to where this character or these sets of characters make all of these decisions. Everything is based on, and like in real life, I believe you have these NPCs just walking around doing the same thing day after day after day.
I think we work with some.
I think so too.
I just don't.
One of them glitched out today. Actually.
He did. Ryan actually called him on it. He was like, "Yep, there it is. NPC proof we're living in a simulation right there."
He was trying to speak, and it was like he had a stroke or something. He just all his words went haywire. No,
okay,
no, he glitched.
Sure. Did he just walk away after he started slurring? Like
he for sure glitched.
Good. Okay. I guess he was having a stroke. Glad we got out of there.
Yeah, it was a really close one. But no, I think that it's something that you have to have an open mind. And I know that was a really, really long, drawn out answer to.
No.
For me, all this stuff strengthens my faith. And it actually strengthens my relationship with Christ and with God because, you know, this is what me and Ryan talk about a whole lot. I've never found anywhere in the Bible that says, "Thou shalt not question God." Well, if I don't ask questions, how is my relationship going to get more intimate? Mm-hmm. If me and my wife, if I never ask her any questions, if I never ask her about her day, if I never ask her about her interests, if I never ask her about her favorite things, if I'm not intrigued enough to want to know her in a personal, intimate relationship way, there's never going to be that closeness. You're not going to be close. So that's the same way that I view my relationship with God is if I don't ask these questions and then go in prayer and go to the word and try to find the biblical viewpoint in these things, you know, I'm drifting away because then it's the world and me telling me what I need to think about it. That's just my opinion.
That makes sense. Yeah. I like that. I like that thought process.
We have
questions. Why not question? Yeah.
Why do sharks get endless teeth and we only get one set?
Yeah.
What's that?
We need answers.
I don't know. I like fish too.
Unfortunately, I do not have all the answers. Jay
thinks
I do.
Well, that was for God.
Certain fields.
Okay, good. Don't lick him.
I'm not.
Was that for real God or mushroom God?
Both.
Yeah, which one?
I was going to say yes.
To whom it may concern.
Yes.
Filling out this letter, to whom it may concern. Just leave it by the mushroom in the front yard.
Yeah.
Look, I'm also a firm believer that there's a whole bunch of gods, small g gods. You know, one
That's
most high,
important. Yeah.
One most high, a whole bunch of small
creator.
G. Exactly. So in this to whom it may concern letter, you may want to be careful with that one too, because there's a whole lot of them out there listening.
Hey, hit me
They're
up,
concerned.
Odin. Hit me up, Odin. That's
yeah. Really off topic. That's what we're kind of famous for. You just said Odin. You guys ever heard of the Flannel Man?
Yes. That's something.
Do you think that's modern day Odin?
It could be.
Because he has most of the time it has one eye and stuff like that, and it's a lumberjack style Norwegian guy.
Dude, I've never thought about that until you just said that. That's something that I've been looking into recently.
I think it's whatever that deity is or whatever that entity is. I think it's the modern day version of Odin. Because there's some weird stuff that happens with it too. And sometimes it's a female, but still almost always missing the one eye.
Come on, man. It's just Anthony Hopkins. I'm sorry, Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Sure, yes.
He earned that.
Dude, that does make sense. Like that's crazy. Oh man, that leads. Oh, I got more research to do.
The research is never ending.
It is never ending. Like I'll be working on something, and then just all of a sudden a thought pop up, and then it's done. I'm done with it completely. It's just endless rabbit holes. I showed Ryan like a page and a half of notes that I had taken from last night because, well, that's a long story. It's a really long story, but I was looking up one certain entity, we'll say demonic entity, but I was looking at what I believe in all of these different cultures and civilizations, the name that these people had for her, and what, how she was represented and symbolized and what she stood for in all of these different cultures, the names that she stood out, and how in almost all of these she had a male consort, in everything from Canaanite to Babylonian to Egyptian to Germanic to Swiss to Scots Irish to, it's all in mythology, it's all in folklore, it's in their ancient writings, and how, all these different things wrap in. And I'll just throw a big hint out there because you hill folk probably already know who I'm talking about. She's usually represented as being bird-like or having bird feet, or
Hillary Clinton.
That's it. That's the modern day version.
I knew I got it.
Yeah.
That's the modern day version.
That's
But no, I was showing Ryan today. I had like a page and a half of notes on my phone that I had just like pulled from and copied and pasted. And I was even going in, down rabbit holes of like, okay, where we live, these two certain entities are the ones that are spoken about, way more often than any others. This female and male god, goddess, consort that always ran in tandem. Where did they come from? What do they look like in Scotland and Ireland and Wales specifically, and in Germany specifically? Because that's who came into this area and just locked in and stayed. So with their thoughts and ideas and culture and mythology and lore and background, when they came from the homelands and settled here in central Appalachia, it's almost like, okay, these entities are there. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But it's almost also as if they're a type of tulpa. Like, because these people settled here and because they had this thought process, and when something went wrong, it was automatically, such and such. That's like, I believe that people have actually seen Santa Claus, because I believe that you can speak as a whole collective, a whole group. I think you can speak, manifest things into reality.
Justin.
Dude, I'm telling you.
You see what I got to deal with, Justin?
I kind of believe the same thing, though.
No, I think Santa's real, just so everybody knows.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm not
joking. I literally talked about this on Saturday night. I was on another show with our buddies. I got drunk and I talked about it for like an hour. I think Santa's real.
I'm with you.
He was a long time ago.
No, I think the spirit of Santa Claus still exists, as in not a physical thing as Santa. Do you guys know about the layaway Santa guy every year?
Yep.
So every year he goes to a couple Walmarts to the U.S. and everything on layaway, because if you're already using layaway, it's probably not the best situation you're in and stuff like that. And he just pays for everybody's layaway for Christmas. And he goes through several Walmarts, like randomly through the U.S. I think that is Santa Claus, as in not the actual man that's doing it, but the spirit of it is Santa. It's a good deed with no reward, no justification, and no acknowledgement. He doesn't want anybody to know who he is. He just goes in. The one like I can't remember last year was like a half or it was $1 million or something like that. Because he spends about $1 million every year on it. But like one Walmart had like $68,000 at one Walmart on layaway. $68,000, and he's just like, here's the money. Just call everybody on the layaway list, tell them to come get their presents for the year, and just be done with it. So that's what when I say I believe in Santa, I believe that Santa's not a fiscal guy, or he was, like you were saying, Saint Nicholas was a real person, but that spirit still exists in the world and still does things like this, and it's just like the goodwill or whatever you want to call it. That is Santa. The non-justified, you don't get anything out of it. That is, I guess Santa. I guess I said that a lot better than I did on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's tough. Helps when you're not under the influence.
I was smackered. Because we'd already been recording for like 2 hours, and that was at the very end.
I was gonna say that didn't take an hour.
No, I was see my hand, and they were asking me questions.
Oh man.
Look, I'm
sitting
with
in
you.
this seat like I believe in Santa. Leaning on the mic stand, hammered. I have a problem.
I got no problem drinking.
It's not that. I don't got the problem drinking. It's the next day.
Yeah.
That's when the problems come because I can't. When I look at my hand again, and then it hurts. And you know what? It hurts to look. That's a problem.
Yeah.
It's never a good thing.
Santa's real, Jay.
I think the Justins are together on this one. Santa's real. So what Justin is trying to tell you, Ryan, is the spirit of Santa is possessing some form of physical person or whatever and making them go into these places.
I was here when he told all that.
I just want you to know that the spirit of Santa is possessing people.
See,
I hope you get possessed by Santa. That'd be the greatest possession ever.
No.
You just start being like Tim
Allen.
Tim Allen. Yep, that's it. You'd be Tim Allen. All of a sudden, you have this big white beard. You're super huge.
Yeah, bad Christmas for some kids. That's as I see it. The only thing you need this Christmas is your ass busted. That's what you need.
Hey, some kids do need it.
For sure.
I'm telling you.
I work with a lot of kids, and you know who you are if you listen to this. And they need it.
Ass busting Santa's coming.
I think I only ever got my butt beat like 4 times growing up, but I was in fear of it every other time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's famous line was touch your toes. Touch your toes. And you had to reach out and touch them and whack.
Jay's mom is 3 foot tall.
Hey, it worked. It worked. I only touched my toes a handful of times.
Well, I was a mean little kid, hence the red hair. And I spent a lot of time at my grandma's, my mama's. She, when my mom would be working, dad worked a whole lot. So I spent a whole lot of time there with her watching. And she has never, ever, 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 ever spared the rod. And by rod, I mean nice willow switch.
Oh, yeah.
So, they wrap, son. They wrap around.
Oh, yeah.
So I got old enough at one point that, the worst part, she would make me go pick my own switch.
Yeah, I was going to say that. My grandma said that to my mom.
And every time I knew what, if I didn't go get it, she was going to go get it anyway. Well, I got older and I thought I got a little smarter. So I was like, you know what? Forget this. I found this big old dead, just soggy, but it was like 20 pounds, dude. It was a club. It was flipping huge. I was like, I'm going to bring this back to her. So I brought it back to her. She looked at me. She said, you think you're real smart, don't you? Grab the rail. It was the banister on the porch. So I grabbed and I was like, there's no way she's going to hit me with this. Dude, she broke that sucker across the bottom of my back. And then made me pick the right switch after I was half paralyzed.
Should have been smart.
Like, never again.
Lesson learned.
I am 33 years. I am 33 years old, and every time I walk through that lady's front door, she'll grab a switch up off the dining room table and strike me on the way by. I'll say, "Mama, what in the world was that for?" She said, "I know you earned it. I know you've done something that deserves it."
She's still right.
She's still keeping me honest.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's the way to be.
You can't beat grandmas.
No, dude, she's the best granny witch out there. Boys, this has been a blast. This has been a whole lot of fun. I mean, I don't even have a clue how long we've been going. I just know that it's after midnight now at this point. And
oh yeah,
I got to work in the morning.
Same.
But dude, it's worth it. It's worth it to be able to come together and have these conversations and to, you hear, we talk about as content creators, you're also fans of other people's content. You take all this stuff in, and it's one thing to like listen to you guys talk about some of this stuff on other shows and your own show, but it's a different kind of thing to sit, face to face. I'm still going to say face to face. I'm looking at you. It's cool to be here and to listen and to learn even more, about more of these species that could be out there, and to be able to ask the questions, to be able to think on it in real time. This is a really cool thing to do. And like we say on here all the time, if we never got a single download from here on out, I would still show up here. I would still schedule the meetings and the conversations and sit down and have them, because dude, it's a blast. I love meeting other people. I love being able to sit down. We love you boys and what y'all are doing. This has been great. This has been great. Ryan's been pumped for this.
I'm telling you. Like,
glad we could deliver.
Yeah, I definitely think the feeling's mutual.
Yeah, the pod family definitely grew today.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hashtag build the tribe. That's all.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we like to do, man.
Oh yeah. Well, we love it. Thank you guys for having us on. It was a lot of fun. I know I talk a lot, and it's a problem. Believe it or not, I did not talk as a kid, and I'm getting back at it now. They all thought I was going to be a serial killer.
that ain't out of the window yet.
I was getting ready to say that's yet to be determined.
I haven't got caught.
A lot of time left.
Yeah.
You ever hang out with Tony again? Ask him about me and the serial killer.
Okay. For sure.
You remember what I did? You remember what I did to him like 2 minutes into meeting him?
I know he did.
So thank you guys, and we'd love to have you on at our show at some point here in the near future. I just know with scheduling and stuff, but we'd love to reciprocate the household love. But thank you guys for having us. It was a ball.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Before we jump off here, though, you guys let the Hill folk know where they can find you, everything that you guys got going on, whatever you want to promote, whatever you want to push. Right now is your time to do some self-promotion. So hit it. All
right. So you can find us pretty much anywhere you're listening to these guys at. We're on all the platforms.
We are Cryptids of the Corn podcast.
Cryptids of the Corn. Corn, not the other word. People have said things. No, so we have Facebook. That's we do like live shows on Facebook and stuff that are interactive. We do that every Tuesday at 9 a.m. But we do some evening ones too. They're just not as scheduled. Instagram, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us besides the email, which is just cryptidsofthecornpodcast@gmail. But Instagram is another really easy way to get a hold of us. Facebook Messenger, if you message me, I'll probably respond when you're not crazy.
You can find all our episodes on cryptidsofthecorn.com.
Oh yeah, I built a website. That was a feat.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was very good.
We have Patreon. If you love our content, if you want extra content and stuff, we keep the main show family friendly, because like I said, me and Emily are both 4-H advisors. So we have a lot of families that listen, and there's a lot of families that enjoy us. So we try to keep that as PG as possible. Patreon doesn't get the same Passover. So, we get more free with it and stuff like that. Because in my opinion, you're going to a paid site. So, you know what you're getting into at that point. But we do Patreon. What do we do on Patreon?
We do trivia. We do movie nights. We do
You get
extra
bonus episodes. You got a lot of bonus
episodes, extra content. Yeah, like you were saying, stuff we can't really dive into on the normal show.
Yeah. I forget anything? I know I'm bad with self-promotion.
I think we covered about everything. I think all that we got going on.
All right. Thank you guys again. It was a blast. I love talking.
Heck yeah, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Hopefully you learned about an animal you didn't know existed yet.
Yeah, like 25.
It's always fun to learn that mushrooms are shaped like penises for a reason, because it's just a bunch of dicks sticking up out of the ground.
They are genitalia.
Yeah.
Basically.
Technically, Ryan, penises are shaped like mushrooms.
Yeah.
Ooh, they were here first.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were here first.
Oh, we're emulating them.
Oh gosh. This is a crisis.
Our neural pathways, we're just trying our best to be as close to them as we could be.
See, God is a mushroom in his image.
Life imitates art, right?
They do say that, like, some alien theorists believe that aliens are just future humans coming back, and they have become so advanced, biologically and their brain functioning and stuff. That's why they don't have to use spoken language, that they can just communicate telepathically in whatever language it doesn't matter. So maybe that is us just evolving to become more and more and more like these mushrooms as the years go on.
Or big-eyed freaks.
Or we fully integrated with mushrooms by then.
Yeah.
Combo.
They integrate with us. They love doing that.
Yeah, they're hybrids. Mystery solved. There we go. We figured it out.
We're never getting off this.
No, we'll get off now. I just had to say that because it hit my brain.
I feel bad for you guys. I don't got to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm super ADD. If it hits my brain, I'm saying it. I can't help it.
Yeah, it's the way to be.
Anyway, Hill Folk, go check out these guys at Cryptids of the Corn. Flock to them, swarm to them. Go check out all of their stuff. I promise you will not be disappointed. Well, you're not disappointed right now. You already heard them on this episode. You already know what you're getting. You already know that you love it. So show them the same. Show them that same Hill Folk love that you guys show us, because they're way smarter than us. They're better looking than us. Well, than Ryan.
Careful with they. He's pretty smart.
I thought you were talking about the better looking thing.
No. No, look, at this point, you're guilty by association here, all the way around. All the way around.
Osmosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Integration again. Here we go. Hill Folk, remember, go follow us on all of our socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Appalachian Intelligence. Send us your stories at AppalachianIntelligence@gmail.com. Please go rate and review this show wherever you listen to podcasts. But most importantly, share the show. However you are most comfortable sharing this show, please share the show. Scream it from a mountaintop. Text all your friends. Text all your enemies. Text people that you don't like. Text that dude that didn't show up and dished you for prom back 27 years ago and say, hey, look, I found way cooler dudes than you ever thought about being. Buy one of these planes that goes along the coastlines at the beach and has some kind of promotional message behind it, and just go to Appalachian Intelligence. Buy a billboard, put our faces on it. However you want to share the show, share it. Because that's the most important thing that you guys can do. We love you, boys. I love all y'all. This has been a lot of fun.
Love you, buddy.
We're going to have to run this back. Hill Folk, until next time, we'll see y'all later.
Loving's mean it.